Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more buckshot testing, and today we've got another really interesting combo to run. We've started testing this setup a few times here recently again with some nice results to show for it so far with just the basic shells, but now we're going to be running a little bit higher performing load based on what we've seen from previous testing with it anyway. So we've got a real possibility of getting some very impressive results today. We've already seen great results from this setup with other buckshot loads, so we'll see how these do because I've definitely got some high hopes for it for sure. First up, we'll start with the setup that we're running, that being an old Stevens 311. I believe in dating this, it's about a 1974, somewhere right in there. It kind of looks it as well with this plain, very bland color brown wood stock on here. But this 311 is a double barrel, 12 gauge. It's got 28-inch barrels on it with a mod full choke configuration. The modified in the right barrel is a 704. The full choke in the left barrel is a 697. So not very far off in constriction, but it has shown to make a difference in patterns, at least a little bit. So we'll see how this does with the buckshot loads we've got today, because it should do rather well based on our previous testing with other buckshot through this gun. That has already been very impressive. As for the shells we've got today, I brought out some of the Federal copper-plated buckshot loads. These ones being the 12 gauge 2 3/4 inch 9 pellet load of double aught at 1325. When it comes down to buckshot and still keeping a relatively standard basic type of loading, the copper-plated lineup is pretty hard to beat. You can get better than this with flight control loads and stuff like that, but without those specialized wads, these are probably some of the best stuff on the shelf. These typically do better than the Super X and the Remington Express and stuff like that. So we've got a real possibility of this being a pretty nasty performing combination. We've tried some plain old Super X double aught through that same gun here recently with very nice results. So we'll see what the copper plated line can actually do. As for our test today, we're running everything the same as usual. We do have a double barrel with 2 different choke constrictions. So I think it would be wise of us to run a shot through each barrel so we can see the difference between our 2 barrels and choke constrictions. Both shots are going to be taken at 40 yards. So we'll see if the full choke is 40 yards and the modified should maybe be kept a little closer, or if both of them are 40-yard capable and what the difference actually is side by side. So we'll take a shot through the mod barrel, then we'll move to the full barrel and we'll see how both of them actually shoot at 40. So let's get you guys a view of those targets. Again, start with the mod, then we'll go to the full, and we'll see how this old 311 actually performs with some Federal copper plated loads. Okay, so we'll have a quick look at our velocities before we look at our targets. We have a boss claim of 1325 out of those shells. I think both of our shots were just a little bit over that mark from our 28-inch barrels. Our first shot through the modified barrel is 1342, and the second shot through the full choke barrel was 1333. So just a little bit over that 1325 claim, but still well within the ballpark of normal for these. But did we get 2 good patterns down there at 40? And how well did they actually work at that range through a double barrel like that? Let's go check it out and see what we got. All right, so here we are down at our 2 40-yard targets side by side. On the left target, we have our modified barrel, 704 constriction. And on the right, we have our full choke barrel, which is 697. We definitely see 2 rather interesting patterns down here. Both of them are very capable, but there is a little bit noticeable of a difference between the 2 as well. We may actually have a case here where you may want to use the mod barrel on the left, say 30-35 yards and in, whereas the full choke may be that 30 to 40 yard range type of pattern that you may want, since there is a little bit of difference between the 2, but both of them are very nice patterns overall. First, we'll start with the left pattern. This is the modified 704 constriction barrel. The white dot was my point of reference for where I was aiming. We may have favored a little bit low with the pattern, but I only have a handful of shots through that shotgun so far since I've ever owned it anyway. So I'm still trying to figure out exactly where it hits since it's a double barrel and they can be finicky sometimes. But we've got all 9 pellets on the target there. Pretty nice even spread of them as well. Maybe you consider that top pellet a little bit of a 9th pellet flyer. not completely uncommon with 9 pellet double lot loads across the board, but everything is kind of centralized right there, averaging just below our white dot. I did measure it as well. We're looking at 18 and 3/4 inches tall by 13 inches wide. I always say anything sub 20-inch pattern wise at 40 yards is a nice performing buckshot shell. Once we hit the 15-inch mark and under, that's where we're really starting to do something. So we're not far off. This is a perfect, pretty happy medium. This is definitely going to be 40-yard capable when we start putting our templates up, but it might give you a little more breathing room and a little more even of a spread than what we saw with our full choke, which is now this pattern. This is our full choke barrel. It's a 697 constriction. We still have all 9 pellets on the target here. The full choke is the left barrel, and it does look like our barrel favored a little bit left on the target. Not uncommon for double barrels to do that either, but we definitely have a little bit tighter of a central core area right to the left of that white dot. So the full choke barrel did indeed condense our pattern down a little bit. However, we now have a flyer over there off the left and another flyer starting to show up over here on the right as well. Excluding those 2 very outskirt edge pellets, everything we see right in the center of the screen right there is right at 10 inches. So from that very bottom pellet along the bottom of the screen to the top pellet at the top of the screen and those other few pellets, that is 10 inches pretty much exactly right there. But I did measure the whole thing, of course. We're looking at 11 inches tall and 24 inches wide if we include those 2 outer edge flyers. But like I already said, excluding those 2 far left and right pellets, it's 10 inches right there with the other 7 pellets. So maybe not quite as pretty looking of a pattern or as even as what we got with the mod choke, but it is tighter for sure, excluding the flyers, obviously. So very interesting performances here. Let's throw a couple templates up and we'll get a little better reference as to how they actually performed out in the field. First up, we have our deer template. This is our modified choke barrel pattern. Obviously, I favored the template lower than where our white dot is. This is something I've had to explain to several people here recently that have commented about it. The white dot is just a point of reference for me to aim at to hopefully center the pattern up well enough at 40 yards, especially for guns that I may not have a ton of experience with where the bead actually hits. If we put the template up higher, lined it up where a white dot or point of aim would have been on the deer, wouldn't tell us a whole lot other than would you have killed that deer out in the field or not with that particular shot placement. But we're going for pattern performance capability here, not accuracy for how close we actually hit to the white dot. So that is why our template is favored low, so we can actually see how our pattern performed rather than just cutting half of it off, which wouldn't tell us much of anything. But if we had a nice centered up shot on a deer, we'd put 8 pellets for sure right through the vital area. There's a definite 6 of them in there. You got one a little lower in the front leg and one maybe a little bit more forward towards the neck area, but that is a dead deer all day long. 40 yards with a modified choke would certainly do the job. Maybe if you got one that won't really stop for you, this may give you a little more breathing room to work with, or if you're running deer drives or something, that may be the combo you want to go with. Because here we now have our full choke pattern. Still, we hit the deer with 8 pellets for sure, but we've got a nice hot little clump of them right through the lung area there that would certainly do the job. The other pellet that we don't see is just in front of his neck there, kind of behind the template, but everything else is right where you need it to be, so certainly 40-yard capable. Maybe if you're tree stand hunting or something and you get a deer that nice slow walks by you, you can kind of stop him, get a stationary shot, that kind of stuff. This might be the pattern you go with. You can put a little tighter clump of them right through the vitals where you want it to be versus the modified choke kind of being a little bit more broad coverage across the vital area. Either way, both of them would certainly work for a deer hunt, no question about it. Next up, we have a coyote template. We're back to our modified choke pattern here. Obviously, this double barrel like this with a copper plated double lot load is probably not everybody's just automatic go-to performer for predator hunting. But if this was kind of your farmhouse, backyard critter gun, or you were deer hunting with it and had a coyote come by, this is the kind of pattern we're looking at with the modified choke. Obviously, dead coyote at 40 yards. They would not have a very nice day with that. And now with our full choke barrel, same story goes here. Nice clump of them right through the vital area. Bad day for a coyote for sure. But honestly, some people may prefer the mod barrel for a smaller darting animal or something like that. May give you a little more breathing room in your pattern to work with if they're moving around on you than trying to shoot a tighter clump of pellets right through the vitals like this pattern. Either one of them would definitely do the job though. I wouldn't want to be a coyote running past you with this combo. And finally, we have our torso cutout template. We're obviously not saying this is a home defense combo all the way out at 40 yards or something like that. Probably not a shot you would take very often, if ever at all. But for the people that may not have a good reference on how big different body sizes of animals are, this may give those guys a little better reference as to how a pattern actually performed. This is a regulation 18 by 30 template cutout, and you would have filled the chest cavity with pellets out of the mod choke, even all the way out at 40 yards. If you had a two-legged creature to deal with, it would certainly work. And now moving over to our full choke barrel, pretty well same story. Nice cluster of them right through the center of that torso template. And I mean, back in the 50s, 60s, 70s era, these guns were pretty good bang for your buck, kind of budget, affordable oriented guns that were workhorses for a lot of people. These guns were used as a quote unquote, get off my lawn type of gun. Whether you should or shouldn't do that kind of stuff nowadays, that's up to you. But if it was ever put in a situation where that was the case and it was used for that purpose, that's the kind of pattern you'd be getting with these federal copper plated double-aught out at 40 yards even. So it would work if you needed it to, for whatever reason you can possibly think of. And here are the two wads out of those shells. You've got your modified barrel on the left, your full choke barrel on the right. Both of them look pretty much the same. Nothing I'm concerned with here. These are definitely not full length wads. You probably have a pellet or two sitting above them, but this is the same stuff that comes in most federal buckshot loads that aren't a flight control option, and nothing special to see about them. A little bit of buffer material sitting down in there for you to see, but other than that, they did their job like they typically do. All right, y'all. Well, what did you think about these two results right here? They're definitely both perfectly solid, perfectly adequate patterns. Even the modified barrel you could push out to 40 yards, no doubt about it, for whatever you'd want to use it for. But you're just going to have to decide what barrel you want to pull the trigger on, depending on what's in front of you and what the situation is and what the range is. Maybe if you're a little closer, the mod barrel might give you a little more breathing room, a little more even of a spread. Maybe if you're out hunting a stationary standing deer from a tree stand or something like that, that is out at 30, 35, 40 yards, maybe that full choke pattern might be what you want to use, since you do have that little tighter clump of them you can put right through your vitals. Either one would work just fine, and overall, both are solid performances. They might not be anything over the top nasty necessarily, but they would both absolutely work. And that's kind of what this shotgun has always really been, just kind of a workhorse. It may never be the best thing out there that you can run, but it's going to reliably do the job for you. And these patterns would absolutely carry on that trend perfectly fine. The Winchester Super X we tried through it technically may have had a couple less flyers than what we saw mixed in here, but I think it's pretty comparable overall. And now I think we need to try some flight control loads through it and see what it does, because we may have a really nice chance, if you put a little bit better shell in it, like a flight control load, to get a legitimately nasty pattern from a 40, 50-year-old double barrel. So we'll see what that does when we test that here shortly. But let me know all your thoughts down below. Is this about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of the copper plated buckshot loads through any old double barrels or Stevens 311s like this? And if so, what kind of results have you seen? Are either one of these a combo you would actually run? I mean, it's the same gun, but are either one of these barrels something you would actually fire if you were out in the field? And if so, which one would you prefer? Do you like the little hotter core? Do you like the little more even of a pattern overall? And what situations would you run either one of them in? And what other shells do you want to see us put through that 311 that could give us some pretty interesting results? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, you have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.